The courtroom was thick with tension, the kind of heavy air that signals something more than routine proceedings are unfolding. The morning session of the United States Supreme Court had begun as usual. Attorneys lined up, press seated in the back, whispers floating above rustling papers. But something unexpected shifted the mood from business as usual to national spectacle. Representative Jasmine Crockett, known for her firebrand speeches and legal precision during congressional hearings, had come before the court to present arguments on a civil liberties case. It wasn't typical for a sitting member of Congress to argue before the Supreme Court, but Crockett, a licensed attorney with a sharp reputation, had been granted the rare opportunity. The case involved voter suppression statutes in several southern states, an issue close to Crockett's heart and political mission. She stood poised, clad in a crisp navy suit, and began her opening arguments with clarity and conviction. Her voice echoed through the chamber, drawing the attention of every justice. Even those who had previously written her off as just another partisan were forced to acknowledge her command of constitutional law. But as the arguments continued, a shift occurred. Chief Justice John Roberts, long known for his conservative leanings masked by a commitment to institutional decorum, interrupted her mid-sentence. His tone was laced with something unexpected: sarcasm. He repeated part of Crockett's statement back to her in a caricatured tone, raising an eyebrow in what some interpreted as mockery. Yes, deeply rooted in the struggles of marginalized voices. He quoted her, placing emphasis on each word with theatrical irony. The courtroom tensed. At first, there was a moment of stunned silence. Justice Sonia Sotomayor leaned forward slightly in her chair, her expression unreadable. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson didn't move, but her pen stopped scribbling notes. Crockett, standing at the lectern, blinked once, twice. The cameras from the public gallery were not allowed to record, but every eye that witnessed it knew they'd seen something unprecedented. A sitting Chief Justice mocking a sitting black congresswoman in the Supreme Court. Crockett took a breath. She didn't flinch. She didn't waver. What happened next would be replayed on every news broadcast, podcast, and Twitter thread for the next 2 weeks. Chief Justice Roberts, she said slowly, her voice calm, but unmistakably firm. I'd expect more than rhetorical theater from the highest bench in the land. There was a collective intake of breath in the chamber. Even Justice Clarence Thomas looked up from his notes. I stand here not merely as a congresswoman, but as an officer of the court, sworn to uphold the Constitution and advocate for those whose voices are systematically silenced. If quoting the realities of marginalized Americans invites your ridicule, then perhaps the court is more detached from the people than we dare admit. The room froze. No one moved. No one even coughed. Roberts, unaccustomed to being challenged in such a direct yet eloquent manner, seemed momentarily taken aback. He'd adjusted his glasses, then attempted to recover. Representative Crockett, the court appreciates passionate advocacy, but do maintain decorum. She didn't let him finish. I am maintaining decorum, she said sharply, even while being mocked in front of my peers, in the highest court in the country. I faced tougher cross-examinations from prosecutors in hostile jurisdictions. But here, I expected dignity. What I will not accept is a thinly veiled dismissal of the lived experiences my constituents endure daily. It was at that moment that even the stenographer seemed to hesitate, unsure whether to keep typing or simply absorb the historic gravity of what was being said. Crockett continued, turning her attention back to the legal argument, refusing to let the moment derail her focus. She dissected the voter ID laws in question with surgical precision, pointing out disparities, racial biases, and how the law disproportionately affected Black and Brown communities. She invoked Shelby County v. Holder and even referenced Justice Roberts' own majority opinion in that 2013 decision, using his words against him. You stated then that the nation had moved beyond the need for preclearance. But just 10 years later, we've seen a resurgence of precisely the kind of voter disenfranchisement the Voting Rights Act sought to prevent. We cannot pretend progress is permanent when regression is so easily disguised as reform. It wasn't just her words. It was her delivery, the calm fury, the intellectual weight, the clarity. It rattled the court. The energy in the chamber shifted palpably from smugness to unease, from amusement to awe. When she finished her remarks, there was a pause before the next justice could even form a question. Justice Jackson finally broke the silence. "Representative Crockett, I thank you for your argument," she said, with a look that conveyed both solidarity and admiration. "Could you elaborate on the data sets from Georgia you referenced?" And Crockett did, with charts, footnotes, citations. It was the kind of preparation the court hadn't seen in years. Legal academia blended with real-world impact. Outside the court, the scene was electric. Protesters with signs, journalists clutching their press badges, onlookers whispering in disbelief. The buzz spread quickly. Roberts mocked her. She eviscerated him. The court froze. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #StandWithCrockett and #CourtroomQueen trended for hours. Clips from court sketch artists showed Crockett standing like a statue of justice, while Roberts fidgeted in his chair. Cable news panels debated endlessly. Was it racism, misogyny, or just an old man slipping? But what most agreed on was that Roberts had crossed a line, and Crockett had drawn a brighter, bolder one in response. The Congressional Black Caucus released a statement applauding Crockett's unflinching courage and constitutional brilliance. Legal scholars dissected her oral argument on YouTube, noting how she managed to simultaneously defend the law and challenge the power imbalance inside the courtroom. Even late-night comedians took note. Stephen Colbert quipped, "Chief Justice Roberts tried to clap back at Jasmine Crockett, and she turned him into original jurisdiction." But for Crockett, it wasn't about virality. It was about vindication. For the people who don't get to stand at the Supreme Court lectern. For the communities who lose access to the ballot because they don't have a driver's license, or live 3 bus rides away from the nearest polling station, or can't afford to take time off work to vote. Later, when asked by a reporter outside the courthouse if she planned her response to the Chief Justice, Crockett gave a small smile. "I plan to tell the truth. Everything else, that was instinct." Her response, dignified, powerful, precise, has already entered the political lexicon. It is being taught in law schools. It is being quoted by high school debate teams. It is being remembered. But it also sparked a deeper reckoning inside the court. In subsequent sessions, observers noticed a more subdued tone from the Chief Justice. Less interruption, more careful phrasing. Maybe he had been humbled. Or maybe he simply understood now that the new generation of leaders would no longer defer to outdated decorum at the expense of dignity. Whatever the case, Jasmine Crockett left the courtroom that day not just as a member of Congress, but as a voice impossible to ignore, a force rooted in law, fueled by justice, and unafraid to speak truth to power, no matter the room. In the days that followed, Crockett's courtroom stand rippled far beyond Washington. Civil rights groups cited her as a beacon of resistance against institutional condescension. University law professors incorporated her exchange with Chief Justice Roberts into their curricula under the theme, "Courageous Advocacy in Adversarial Environments." Even some conservatives begrudgingly acknowledged her poise. Editorials in major newspapers ran headlines like, "The Day the Court Was Challenged from the Podium," and "Jasmine Crockett Redefined Decorum." Her handling of the moment was not just a political win. It was a cultural marker, a reminder that respect must be mutual and earned, no matter one's robes or title. Behind closed doors, sources claimed that even a few justices, off the record, expressed discomfort with how Roberts handled the exchange. It served as a wake-up call not only to the bench but to the nation watching. Authority doesn't come from age, title, or tradition. It comes from the truth, spoken with conviction. Jasmine Crockett didn't walk into the Supreme Court looking for a confrontation. But when provoked, she didn't shrink. She stood taller. In that frozen moment, she didn't just defend a case. She defended the principle that no one, not even a Chief Justice, is above accountability. And in doing so, she made history. Thanks for watching. If you were moved by Jasmine Crockett's powerful stand in the Supreme Court, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that spotlight courage, justice, and unforgettable moments in history. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did this change how you view courtroom power dynamics? Until next time, stay informed and stay bold.